to my kings, queens, and in-betweens. I'm Valerie, and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Valkyrie. And welcome to having been here for a full year. I started my channel with the mid-year book Freakout Tag, which is what this video is. And I thought it would be a kind of fun touchstone to come back to every year. Technically, I should have had this video up a couple days ago to get it like right on the day, but I'm not sweating it. All right, so let's get this tag started. The first question is, how is your reading going? And I am currently 30 books ahead of my goal to read 100 books this year, which puts me at 86 out of 100 books. I generally surpass this goal quite a bit, usually by 50 to 100, but I really don't want to change this goal. This is more of a mile marker and like a bare minimum. I want to be reading 100 books a year. That way I'm reading at least 2 books a week and maybe more, usually more. And I'm about 20 books further ahead now than I probably would have been if it weren't for the amazing readathon, where I read 20 books more than my usual, because I usually read between like 9 and 12 books in a month. And yeah, in the amazing readathon, I read 29 books. So I'm very much ahead thanks to that. I was already ahead before that, but we are much closer to the 100 books than I usually am. So I've read 48 books by queer authors. I have read 37 books by BIPOC authors, and out of the queer authors that I have read, 15 of those authors were trans or NB, and so I'm pretty happy with those stats. I think maybe I want to work on getting some more BIPOC authors in there so I can get myself closer to 50%, because I'm not quite there, but I want to be at least 50% by the end of the year. And I think I also want to add some more trans and MB authors to that list as well. Now, I think this is also a good question to bring in, kind of like a quick check-in for my bingo board. This is what it looks like. The squares that are completed are reorganize my books, and this is a goal that I achieved I think in the first quarter or towards the beginning of the second quarter, one or the other. But I have acquired enough books since then that I need to reorganize again. So I've got it marked off, but mentally it's there again. I gotta do it a second time. And then read a totally bonkers book. And this one I checked off by reading Make Me, which is the first book in the Fox Family Crime Syndicate series by Summer O'Toole. It was absolutely bonkers. I think I could do more bonkers. I know I have read more bonkers, but I think that this definitely worked as a bonkers book, and it was an okay read. I'm not going to continue the series, but I'm glad I read it and I got to mark off that box. And then next I have a book with a festival in it, and I used This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottingham to check this one off because this book takes place at a musical festival in the desert. So had a great time reading this book. It is one of the ones that I really, really enjoyed this year, and I think Kayla Cottingham is definitely going to become an insta-buy author for me, even though I've only read 2 books from her. I don't think she's gonna fail me. Those 2 books were both major hits for me, so pretty happy with that one. And then I read a book with a color in the title, and I actually read 8 books with the color in the title because I read the manga series Blue Flag for this one, and I really, really, really enjoyed this series. It was great. And then I read a retelling of a classic novel by reading Most Ardently by Gabe Kolnavoa. This is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, where the main character is a trans boy and he falls in love with Darcy. And Darcy is a gay boy, and they go to a Molly house, and I don't know. I loved it. It was good. And I also checked off Buy a Cloth-Bound Classic. This time I bought The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is one of the classics that I've really enjoyed over time, and it's one that I would read again. And I'm actually really interested to see what all is in this book that isn't the book itself. Like, it's got a pretty hefty introduction, and I think that'll be an interesting read. For the free space, I had Bonkers Authors Behaving Badly. This one, unfortunately, has been checked off multiple times throughout the year. I don't really feel like diving into authors behaving badly. It's a subject that I enjoy watching, but it's not really one that I want to indulge in on my channel. So I will direct you to Izzy at Happy for Now, because she does an amazing job at doing the Romancelandia bookish community stuff. She does a fantastic job. You get everything that you have heard around and a few things that maybe you haven't. She does a very good job covering all of those bases. And then actually the very first book that I read this year and marked off on my bingo board are the same book, and that is for my read a nonfiction book square. Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Y. Davis. This collection of essays is, I think, a really good jumping off point for anybody who is wanting to kind of get a feel for the Black Lives Matter movement and where it started and what it looked like, and anybody wanting to get a closer look at the Venn diagram of feminism, civil rights on a race level, and how those have kind of developed over time. I would say maybe read Bad Feminist first. I think that would give you a better foundation to start off from if you are just now dipping your toes into reading nonfiction about those kinds of subjects. If you're wanting to get a look at race and feminism and activism, I think that Bad Feminist is probably a better starting off point if you haven't got any kind of foundation in these subjects. But this is definitely a good addition to your knowledge base if you do already have a foundation in these subjects. And then I checked off a book where the heroine runs, and I'm going to use Tangled in Faith by Evelyn Crow to check that box off, because our heroine definitely runs in this book and she does so much more than that. I really loved this book. I actually had the opportunity to beta read this early in the year, and then later on I received a PR box with this copy of it in it. I have not had the chance to reread it in its completed form yet, but I definitely want to do that. I am really happy that I got to use this to check off one of the boxes on my bingo board. And then for a book featuring a sapphic relationship, I have a few options, but I think I'm gonna say The Feast Makers by H.A. Clark. This definitely features a sapphic relationship, and it's one of my favorites. So happy to have that one marked off as well. This next box is one that I checked off and need to kind of go back over and recheck off again, kind of like organizing my books. I need to recheck off Catalog My Physical TBR. At one point I did have it completely checked off, but then I got a slew of books in the second quarter of the year, and I really need to come back through and make sure that everything that's on my to be read shelves has been added to my to be read shelf on Goodreads. But I did go through and catalog them all at the beginning of the year. And then the last one is Read a Book with Royalty in the title. And for that, I read The Witch Queen of Halloween by Cressley Cole. I love this book. It is such a fun novella. It's very escape room coded, but, you know, make all of the dangers real and put some really significant emphasis on that deadline to escape by a certain time frame. I had a great time with this. This was exactly what I was looking for. Wait a second, hang on. Wait a minute. I didn't. Apparently I managed to pick up a signed copy and I didn't even know it. I know I pre-ordered this, but I didn't realize I pre-ordered it with a signature. How did I miss that? I've flipped through this book I don't know how many times, and this is the first time I saw that. Well, that's fun that I was recording when I saw that. All right, cool. Anyhow, moving on. So that is kind of the overview for how my reading's been going and where I'm at on my bingo board, and I'm super happy with where I'm at this juncture. So the second question is best book that you've read so far. I have 3 answers for this question. One is Never Whistle at Night, an Indigenous dark fiction anthology. I found several new authors that I want to start reading their works, like Nick Medina and Tommy Orange and Darcy Little Badger. All of those are bigger names that I've heard other people talk about, but some of the people who I haven't heard about from other booktubers are people like D.H. Trujillo and Tiffany Morris and Shane Hawk and Norris Black. These are all people whose stories in Never Whistle at Night were particularly interesting to me for one reason or another. And seriously, I really love this short story collection. It's fantastic. If you haven't read it yet, I absolutely advise you to go ahead and read it. Keep in mind it's being sold as a horror anthology, but I would definitely say that the way that it's titled is much more accurate as dark fiction. While there is plenty of horror involved, it is not, strictly speaking, just horror. But I really love this, and I think it needs to get just, you know, a little more love. Another one that I wanted to mention is Lone Women by Victor LaValle. I actually just finished reading this and loved it. I found it compelling from beginning to end, and the end was an avalanche of awesomeness, which honestly, I probably may reread again soon. This is the first book by Victor LaValle that I have picked up. I do have The Changeling by him, so I'm definitely more inclined to pick that one up sooner than later now that I've read this. Had a really good time with it. I know I keep saying that, but I don't want to spoil anything. There is so much to spoil. Like, I now understand why so many people who have recommended this and reviewed it have been so cagey about talking about it, because there's really no way to talk about this without spoilers. So yeah, read this book. That's all I can say. Read this book. And then on a lighter note, the other book that I would say is a favorite of the year so far is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. It's the first book in the Monk and Robot duology, and I loved this book so much. The only reason I think that this one isn't just like a scotch higher on my list between these 3 is because the beginning of the book, the main character irritated me. And I feel very called out by this book because the things that irritated me about the main character are things that I do. And the reason that I cried about this book was very much along the lines of a really good therapy session where your therapist calls out some shit and you have to deal with that. So yeah, we're gonna go with A Psalm for the Wild Built and just say these 3 books are the best that I have read so far in 2024. Okay, and then the next question is the best sequel that you've read so far, and for that I'm going to go with The Feast Makers by A.J. Clark. I love this book. Honestly, it is everything I wanted and more for the end of this trilogy. I am so happy with the way that this trilogy wound up and where everybody landed and how we got there. This whole trilogy is just such a fucking delight. Like, there's really not another way to describe it. It's just a fucking delight. I don't know. I love this book. And it was a fantastic follow-up to the first 2 books. And I love this book. And then my favorite reread so far this year, I'm gonna have to say, is Defect by Nino Cipri. I honestly cannot tell you how excited for this reread I was when I realized that I could squeeze it into the face-off weekend. I was delighted because it's awesome. And if you want to see me gush about it, you can go to the face-off weekend vlog and I will definitely tell you all about it there. The next question is the genre you've been loving / reading the most. And if you split that into 2 things, the one that I have read the most is romance. Like, if we're going by the numbers, the genre that I've been reading the most is romance. And I will never not love romance. Romance is my best bud, my pal, my compadre. However, I think that the books that I have been enjoying the most lately have been horror and fantasy. So yeah, definitely have been enjoying romance and fantasy and horror. And I think that that is going to be continuing. And then I kind of want to just make a little mention about sci-fi, especially since my favorite reread was a sci-fi. And often I'm finding in the last couple years that favorite rereads are sci-fi. So while sci-fi hasn't been something that I've read a ton of this year, I'm on the lookout for more. So I don't know, maybe if Space Opera September happens again, I can check out some more sci-fi then. Otherwise, I'll just have to find it and squeeze it in wherever. Okay, now a new release that I haven't read yet but want to. This list is forever long, like forever long. But I have a few of those right here. So, and this one I am planning on getting to like ASAP, like probably before the end of this month, and that is Indian Burial Ground by Nick Medina. He is one of the authors that I came across in Never Whistle at Night, who I really enjoyed his writing, so I'm excited to pick this up. I am planning on reading this for July Noir. So yeah, hopefully this will be read by the end of the month. And then another one is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This is supposed to be a cozy fantasy in the way of Legends and Lattes, but like higher stakes. And so I'm interested to see how that goes. Also, we have some purple sprayed edges, and I love that. And I have seen a lot of people in the last, I don't know, month raving about it. So I'm excited to pick this up and see if I agree with them or not. And then there's another one that I really want to read, but I need to read 2 books, reread 1 book and read it for the first time another. and that is Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. So I need to read the first 2 books in this series first before I get into Mirrored Heavens, just so that I can make sure that I have all of the pertinent facts and names and places in my head before I dive into this and finish this trilogy up. So I'm excited for it, but I do need to, like I said, read the first 2 books first. But Rebecca Roanhorse is hands down one of my ultimate favorites, always has been, always will be, and I can't wait to read this one. So I'm thinking I definitely will be reading that. Oh, one other. A Swift and Sudden Exit by Nico Vincenti. This is a sapphic, sci-fi, timey-wimey kind of romance. And I am really excited to read it. I pre-ordered this, and I mean, look at the cover. Look how fantastic that is. Look at the stuff on the back. Like, I'm excited to get to this. I don't know. I'm just saying, sapphics through time. I'm excited, and this is a new to me author, so we'll see what I think once I have made my way through this book. Okay, so most anticipated releases for the second half of 2024. All right, so for that, I have 4 books. So I'm gonna read these in release order. So next month on August 6th, we will be getting A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, and I have found that T. Kingfisher is definitely for me, and while I'm not certain that her straight up horror is for me, I think that her way of doing like grimdark fantasy is definitely for me. So I loved Nettle and Bone, and I loved Thornhedge. So I think that this book, A Sorceress Comes to Call, is going to be right up my alley. I think this is exactly the kind of fantasy that I'm looking for. And then in September on the 3rd, we get Compound Fractures by Andrew Joseph White. I really loved Hell Followed With Us. I have a full spoiler review or vlog and review of it. I'll link it below. Absolutely horrifying. This is definitely the kind of horror that you read when you want to be horrified, when you want violence and death and gore and body horror. Like, it's really good. I haven't read the second book that he released, but I do have it, and I will be reading it. And then I'm excited for Compound Fractures. I already have it on pre-order, and we'll see how that one goes as well. And then in October on the 1st, we're gonna get another conclusion to a trilogy, which is Candle and Crow by Kevin Hearn. And this is the 3rd book in the Ink and Sigil trilogy. And honestly, when we're talking about how much I love fantasy, and in particular urban fantasy, Kevin Hearn is the author. I love this trilogy. I love the Iron Druid Chronicles, which is the series that Ink and Sigil spins off from. And I love that we get some cameos from characters in that series, including Atticus and his trusty companion Oberon. The one that I am the most delighted to have seen in Ink and Sigil is Morrigan, and I'm assuming, because I haven't read the summary because I don't want to, I just want to dive in and see what happens, but I'm assuming that from the title, Candle and Crow, that we are going to get some more of Morrigan. So I'm excited for that. I may have to do a reread of those first 2 books as well. You know, such a hardship. But I'm excited for those books to come out. I'm excited for that book to come out so I can do that. that reread and get the end of that story. And then in November on the 12th, we're going to get Dead Girls Don't Dream by Nino Cipri. This is going to be the first full-length book from them that I've read, and I am really excited for it. It looks like it's going to be a sapphic story, and we're following, I think, we get 2 people in the summary that are named for sure, and then I remember something about a ghost, and I think she might have a name, so that's why I think it's 3 people, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, basically this is going to be one of those stay out of the woods kind of scary stories, and I'm excited for that. All right, so we're gonna go from some big happies to a big sad. So the next question is, what was your biggest disappointment of the year so far? And for that, I'm gonna have to go with Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. This is the second book of hers that I just did not enjoy. So that is one hit out of 3 so far that I have managed. And sadly, those 2 stories that I haven't liked were the sapphic stories that she's written, and I'm really sad about that. But she keeps writing these toxic sapphic stories, and I'm just not here for it. I don't know, I can handle a little toxic love, like a little, but the level of toxicity in these relationships is just not okay. And I was so excited for this because it was very Priscilla, Queen of the Desert coded, but you know, in America with limited number of drag queens. Only one of our 3 road trip buddies were drag queens, although I think both women ended up doing drag as well, being drag kings, and that was fun. But the main romance was just not romantic. It was toxic and frustrating, and there was so much lack of communication, and what communication we got was just broken. So I just had the hardest time getting behind these girls. Like, once they were finally together at the end and they had finally hashed out all their shit, like, I could believe it. I can believe it. But getting there was such torture that I just hated it. I think I ended up giving this like a 2.5 star. I can't remember, but the only reasons I didn't DNF this are, 1, that I really, really wanted to like it. So I just kept reading. 2, I really did love the side characters so much. Their former teacher, who they are carpooling across the country, is fantastic. The one girl's dad is again fantastic. The person who we meet along the way is also awesome. And then the nurse that we get at the end portion of the book, again, awesome. All of the side characters, fantastic. All of the male characters, fantastic, now that I think about it. And all of the women kind of sucked. And I'm okay with unlikable characters. Don't get me wrong. I actually love an unlikable character, but my romance needs to only have like a minimum amount of toxicity in it, or I'm gonna be angry and I'm gonna be sad. And I was both with this book. So moving on to the next question, what was the biggest surprise? And for me, I'm going to have to say that it is a toss-up between A Prayer for the Wild Built. I was very much surprised in that book. Like, I was very much surprised at the things that I ended up loving about it. Like, the only thing that I knew for sure I was going to love was that the main character is a tea monk. And again, in case you missed it in my vlog, I want to be a tea monk when I grow up. Suffice it to say, I was not expecting to love it at the level that I loved it. it was fantastic. I am so happy that I picked it up, and now I definitely need to get it in the physical format for my shelves. And then there was another surprise I had, and that was The Changeling Sea by Patricia McKillip. I have not read a ton of Patricia McKillip in the past, and this is actually the only one that I even have any memory of. Like, I know I read some other books by her, but I also remember them not really being for me. This one definitely was for me, and it gave me so much nostalgic feels. I loved it. I think that I'm actually going to be doing some nostalgic rereads because of this book. So I was definitely surprised at how much I loved this. And then favorite new author or debut author, I'm gonna have to say Chuck Tingle. I know he's not technically debuting as an author with this book, but it was his first debut as a horror author, and that was Camp Damascus. I loved it, and I am excited to pick up Bury Your Gaze by him. But I have to put like a question mark on that one because, again, this is an author who I've only read 2 books from. One of them was from his ridiculous erotic romances, and it was exactly that. And then I've read Camp Damascus, and while I really, really loved it, I don't think that I can say that he is a new favorite without reading just a little bit more from him. So I can maybe like officially ratify him as a favorite author after I've read Bury Your Gaze. And then I am hoping that Nick Medina is going to be a favorite author, so we'll see. This is another like question mark favorite author. This question, it seems to be one that everybody struggles with because we're only halfway into the year and it's hard to say, you know, I have found a new favorite author when you're only talking about new authors within this last 6 months. So I don't know, hard to say. And then another one that I want to put in there under the question mark is Kathleen Yardley. I read Role Playing last month and it was fantastic, and I have a feeling that she could be a new favorite author. But again, one book is a really hard thing to go off of for that particular statement. In the end, I think the only author I can really say is definitely a favorite new author is Tal Bauer, because I have read multiple books from him and each one of them has made me cry. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep reading Tal Bauer. I've read 2 books from him. I have a 3rd one that I have on my shelf that I'm ready to pick up at any moment that I think I can handle crying. But those 2 books were just both very solid, and I definitely think that I can say that this is a favorite author. The question mark on this one is much fainter. Anyway, moving on to the next question. My newest favorite character. Now, okay, so this one I've seen as newest fictional crush, and I'm gonna say that I don't know. I just want to go with my newest favorite character, and that is Mosscap from the Monk and Robot books. Mosscap is the robot in that series and is an absolute delight. And I think it's kind of funny that Mosscap is my newest favorite character because last year my newest favorite character was Murderbot. So apparently I really like a robot. So love Mosscap. Absolutely love Mosscap. And then for a book that made me cry, both of the Tal Bauer books that I read this year have made me cry. The one that made me cry the most recently was The Rest of the Story, and I wax poetic about that one in my week 3 vlog of the Amazing Readathon. Absolutely just destroyed me. I loved it. Moving on. Okay, and for a book that made me happy, I'm going to go with The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the third book in the Indian Lake trilogy, so we are just wrapping up trilogies left and right this year. I fucking loved this book. I love Jade Daniels. She is the final girl for me. And I can't really talk about it without spoilers, and so I will just say that I loved it. It made me happy on a lot of levels, and I'll leave it at that. The next question is, what is the most beautiful book that you bought / received so far this year? And for me, that is The Picture of Dorian Gray, the cloth-bound edition. I love these books, and this one in particular is fantastic and very much my aesthetic. I absolutely love it. Although I think that Most Ardently might rival it a little bit, because I mean, look at the foiled lettering and the art. I love it. So anyway, yeah, those two books I would say are my most beautiful covers so far this year. And then what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So I need to read a whole lot more banned books. I forgot to talk about this when I was talking about my bingo board. I have come to the conclusion that giving myself a hard number to aim towards is part of why I'm failing at it. So I'm just going to take the number off and read as many banned books as I can this year, and just continuously make that one of those things that I am always looking for and looking to read. So far this year, I think I have read 3 banned books, and so I definitely need to read more. If I get to 12, awesome, but I'm going to take that requirement off and just read as many banned books as I can, as often as I can. I need to finish reading Black AF History, The Unwhitewashed History of America by Michael Harriot. It is a nonfiction book, obviously, that I started at the beginning of the year. I started it towards the end of January, and I really need to continue reading it. I have a hard time with nonfiction though, so I just haven't been able to pick it up, but it's definitely like on my soft DNF list where I will be picking it up as soon as I'm feeling like picking up a nonfiction book. And I definitely want to read it before the end of the year. And then I also have some manga that I recently acquired that I want to read. Basically, so I've already read the first volume of Imakoi Now I'm in Love. But I have 3 more. I have 3 more volumes of it that I picked up, and I want to get those read before the end of the year. And then I also would like to read more poetry. So far this year, I've only read 2 volumes, and I would like to read more. But we're going to leave numbers out of it and just say more. And then that is it for all of the original questions in the book tag, and now I'm going to go into the bonus questions that Books and Lala and Gavin Reads It All have added to this tag. So I'm going to start with favorite video that you've done in 2024, and I honestly have a hard time picking one, so I'm going to go with my favorite thumbnail, and that is this one from my most recent video. Also, I really liked that video too, so it works. I don't know. We'll see if I have a better answer for that next year. I definitely have been enjoying doing BookTube. I just need to work on making every video that I make my favorite video. Anyway, moving on. The next question is, what is your favorite video that you've done so far in 2024? And I honestly have a hard time picking one, so I'm going to go with my favorite thumbnail, and that is this one from my most recent video. Also, I I really liked that video too, so it works. We'll see if I have a better answer for that next year. Which video did you think would flop but did well? I am going to kind of change the phrasing of that because of how small my channel is. So I'm going to kind of rephrase that as, which video do I think did better than I expected it to do? And for that, I'm going to go with my banned books video, which I will link below. I honestly didn't expect it to do any better than any of my other videos. However, I had tagged one of the booktubers who I think does such a good job talking about banned books, and that's Reads with Rachel, and she actually reposted the video to her feed, so I got a bunch of views on that video that were unexpected because she reposted it. So I mean, thank you, Rachel, that was awesome, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, so that is the video that did well that I wasn't expecting to do well, because I don't think I can say that any of my videos do well. And I'm not talking down on myself or my channel. It's just facts. I have a teeny tiny channel and I have a teeny tiny viewership, and I'm totally cool with that. However, that does mean that none of my videos really do well. All right, then moving on to any upcoming videos that you are excited to make. And for that, I'm going to have to say that the video that I mentioned earlier about reading some nostalgic books, so reading books that blooded me, if you go with the terminology that Fated Mates coined, books that I like imprinted on, books that were like formative in my reading taste and my reading experiences as I've gone through life. I think I want to try and read at least one of those a month and do an exclusive video on that and make that into a video series. So I'm excited about that idea. One of the videos that I'm excited for has to do with a major unhaul / posting to Pango. I have a video that's going to center around like middle grade horror and other forms of media. So yes, I do have some videos that I am excited to make. And then that kind of feeds into question 19, any channel goals by the end of the year. So one of the channel goals that I have is that I want to kind of change up my content. I'll continue to do the tried and true standbys of vlogs and wrap-ups and the usual kind of like recommendations for upcoming readathons and things like that that I have done for the last year. But I want to get a little more creative and do some more fun content than I've done so far. I feel totally fine with my channel being where it's at. I have just taken this last year to get used to the whole process of filming and editing and getting comfortable in front of the camera. And I am slow when it comes to getting comfortable with anything. So I really don't mind that it's been a whole year and I'm still teeny tiny. So I honestly kind of expected that to be the case. Oh, and then I am also wanting to kind of change up my intro card and my outro card. I will probably actually have already done that in this video. And I want to try and have a more formal outro, you know, the kind where I remind everybody to like and subscribe and all of that jazz. I haven't really figured out how to say that comfortably. I know that it's totally normal and it's totally just part and parcel with YouTubing, but I get awkward asking people to do things like that. So I just need to get myself a little script written up and just say it to the mirror enough times that I can just get it out and not think about the words that I'm saying. So wish me luck on that part. Until then, I will probably continue to just leave it in the outro card. So yeah, that is where I'm at so far as plans for, future plans for the channel and goals. Make it show a little more clearly that I've been doing this for a year. And then for the final question, who are your favorite book community members? The list is so intensely long, like so long, but I want to highlight some of the people who have had the most impact on me so far as influenced the books that I read or inspired me to start the channel at all, or whose content, I don't know, keeps me going, keeps me coming back to continue to film and continue to do the BookTube thing. First, I want to mention Izzy from Happy for Now. She has probably been the most responsive person on BookTube to any of my questions or comments on her channel, and I've really appreciated that. She also does such an amazing job of talking about the bookish community at large, and I definitely get a ton of amazing recommendations from her. And then I wanted to talk about Tamika Ray. So she is no longer on YouTube as a booktuber, and now she has shifted over to more of a photography and lifestyle kind of channel with the occasional book content. And one of the reasons that I really appreciate her on here is because she has really talked a whole lot about and done a lot to protect her mental wellness and in relation to BookTube, and I really think that is awesome of her. And I have kind of taken a lot of cues from her content about what to do to make sure that I don't burn myself out. And also, this is probably why my channel is tiny and will probably continue to be tiny, is that I am going to continue to prioritize my mental health over getting views and subscribers. But she's definitely been a big influence on my content so far as how I approach it and how I go about being on YouTube. And then there is Bree from the Locked Booktician. I really love getting a lot of the horror and mystery books that she recommends. I really appreciate the emphasis that she's been putting on middle grade reading lately. And actually, I just got a book in the mail today that was one of her recommendations, The Vanquishers by Kaylin Bayron. And this is a middle grade horror book, and I am super excited to read that. And I really enjoy her content. She does a lot of down-to-earth stuff. I really love her cooking content that goes along with the books that she's reading in her vlogs. And I actually picked up some nonfiction books on her recommendation, and they have definitely been great additions to my reading experience in the nonfiction areas. She's a therapist, and I really appreciate the perspective that she brings to her videos and to her discussions of bookish content with that background. Also, she's running July Noir right now, and and she is the person who brought us Blackoween. So I mean, there is a whole lot that the bookish community can thank her for. So if you don't follow her, you should go ahead and follow her. And then I want to give a great big thank you to Maggie's Books and Stuff, because her videos were definitely influential in me finally deciding to go ahead and just do the damn thing and start filming and posting, despite how nervous I was and continue to be to be perceived online like this. She's just so energetic, and she has such amazingly fun content that I wanted to join the space that she was in. But she's also been really great about being encouraging anytime that I have chatted with her in her comments about being on BookTube and what that looks like, and she's done some videos giving tips about how to succeed on BookTube, or talked about everything from the technical nitty-gritties of how to go about getting yourself on BookTube, and she has been really great about like pep talks on just do the thing, get it out there. And I think that that is huge and very important, and again, big thank you to Maggie. I also wanted to mention Ollie from Criminali. He is fantastic. I really appreciate his content and the community that he encourages within the bookish community, both in his videos and on his Discord. I really appreciate the spaces that he makes and how welcoming he is to the bookish community at large, and how transparent he's been about his content and what he's doing and why he's doing it. And it's all very fun. So if you haven't checked him out, I think you should. And then I have to mention Rachel from A Model Who's Read. She's fantastic. I have been following her for years, and her bookish content keeps me alive. She has been feeding me the queer books for years now, and I very much appreciate that. And she feeds in my fantasy needs, my romance needs. She gives great recommendations, and she is of the witchy, dark, and twisty kind of variety of bookish person, and I very much appreciate that. I love how many bones she has on her shelves. That's fantastic. And so absolutely have to mention her. And then there's Jess Owens, who I'm guessing has no clue who I am. I'm guessing everybody that I'm talking about has no clue who I am, but Jess Owens has definitely inspired me in that, and how transparently she talks about her mental health in relation to life in general, and being on BookTube and reading, just doing the thing, getting the content out there, or not getting the content out there according to how many spoons she has available. And I think that that's really valuable for the bookish community to have that kind of representation. And I really enjoy the books that she does talk about, and I think that she is fantastic and everybody should follow her. And then the last person that I wanted to highlight is someone who I have only recently started watching in the last few months, and that is Jan Agaton. And she is fantastic. I really like seeing the representation that she brings to BookTube. I see some of myself in her, partly with the chronic illness, the arthritis, the autoimmune arthritis issues. I'm not sure exactly what hers is, but mine is psoriatic arthritis, and dealing with the pain and the exhaustion that comes with an autoimmune disease is really a big deal. To see other people talking about that along with their regular content like it's just a regular part of life, because for some of us it is. I don't know, it means a lot to me. It's little things, but it means a lot to me. I also really appreciate her book recommendations. She is a fun mix of dark content and romance, which definitely appeals to me. So yeah, I will link all of these creators below, and you should go give them all a follow if you don't already. So yeah, let's practice that goal that I was talking about with the like, comment, and subscribe. If you liked this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to, and if you have any comments, feel free to go ahead and leave them below. So yeah, that is it for me, and I'll see you next video.
Stars shining bright above me. Night breezes seem to whisper sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer.
Let's see. And I checked this. Did I not write those down? Oh no, I did. Okay. Oh no. Scratch that. Go back. Flip it and reverse it. Iron Druid Chrono. I love the. Why can I not say words? I'm okay. So I don't. So. Oh, you say. That's just rude. I'm filming.